So today I got out the crystal ball, and I know exactly what's going to happen in 2026 for the real estate industry. This is your host, Ron Wysakarski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate. And sure, maybe this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek today, but I got a pretty good idea what I think is going to happen, and we'll see how it plays out. And we have some receipts from last year where we made predictions about where the market would be, that it would increase, and that interest rates would come down. And when it was all said and done, maybe we were good, maybe we were lucky, but we were pretty damn close. So for the 2026 year, what I see on the horizon is that interest rates are going to hover in that 6% range. I do think that they will dip down into the fives, and that psychological barrier of 6% is going to get defeated, but then undefeated. So what's going to happen is I think you're going to see an interest rate reduction in the first quarter of the year. Maybe not in January. That one's really, really iffy right now because there's other things in place right now, because we could look at another government shutdown at the end of January because we didn't push it too far down the road, just that far. So I think that plays into it. We also know that by May there's going to be a new Fed chair. And my suspicion is that person will be more in alignment with interest rates being reduced further than they are right now. But there's some economic conditions that we also have to travel through between now and then. So if you're interest rate focused, I would look for rates to be in that 6 to 6.25 range all the way through the end of January. Would they touch down in the 5.875 range? Maybe. And I think that even right now, you'll probably find someone who's being really aggressive on the loan side that might do that. They might charge a little origination fee or something. There's a path to get there. I think you'll see that ease off. I think by the time we hit April is a really good chance that 5.875 to 6 is going to be the interest rate. I'm predicting that we'll probably be somewhere between 5.5 and 5.75 throughout the second half of the year. I don't know that we get below that. I mean, that would be interesting. But I think 5.5 to 5.75 are really super good rates that will help the buyers with their monthly payments, because I think home values are going up again. And I know there are enough people out there predicting market crashes. And by the way, they've been predicting it for the last 5 years. And we know that new construction prices have come down because they overbought and overbuilt those plots. But they're not changing the prices. What they're doing is they're giving a lot of incentives, buying down interest rates. And they're also throwing in a few freebies like at the design center and stuff like that. So what is happening is that $400,000 house might be getting $30,000 or $40,000 in discounts between the design center and buying down mortgage rates into the fours. And for those of you worried about, oh my goodness, if we buy this home and everybody's doing these deals, what's going to happen? If you're going to keep it for 5 years, probably not too much. If you're going to sell it within a year or two, I would be really, really careful and examine what that looks like. Because if everybody's getting 10% off, let's say, and then you go to sell and you've got closing costs and maybe some real estate commissions down the road, and you're going to do it in a year, you may not survive the cut when it comes down to that. Unless you put a lot of money down there, you may actually have to owe a little bit of money at closing in order to get that house sold. So if somebody's buying today and throughout next year, and maybe parts of this year as well, if they're selling within a year or so, that could be an inflection point where maybe that could potentially be a short sale or bringing money to the table. But that's every market. Anybody who buys with a low down payment, with no money down, let's say on a VA loan or a rural housing loan or FHA with 3.5%, especially if they're getting some help with the closing costs, which is very, very common. In any market, in any economy, those are at risk in the following year or two, because prices probably don't have enough time to go upwards to give enough lift and create separation where there's equity to sell it if you had to do it in a hurry. A lot of those people right now are turning to renting out their homes. They've done a bunch of it with our property management division this year. And when somebody becomes an accidental landlord, what they find is that selling the house doesn't bring the money back that they would like, or it puts them in that pain point of bringing money to the table. So they will choose to rent it. And if you have a $2,500 house payment, and it's renting for $2,200 or $2,300, and you got to put in $200. I know it feels like you're paying for somebody else's mortgage, but it's actually yours. And if you can control a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 asset for $200 a month, it might be a couple grand out of your pocket over the course of a year. Might actually be a smart play, because you're retiring debt off of the mortgage. Maybe you're getting a write-off because you're depreciating the asset as a rental property, and you could get some upward lift on the property where you could sell it in a year or two. And by the way, rent will probably go up in the next year too. So there's things that will help anybody that's in a precarious situation of not being able to sell for the price that they want and take a profit at closing. Definitely not writing a check at closing. Now, if you paid cash, it's probably a paper loss, and maybe you got a write-off for that. So what I believe is that home values will go up. I believe 3 to 4%, again, same as this year. And I think the year-over-year numbers are going to support that there'll be slight increases in value of the homes, even though there's more inventory out there. A lot of pent-up demand. A lot of people did not buy last year. So I believe as homes sell, you can continue to see the trend going upward because affordability is going to get a little bit better with lower interest rates. More people will want to come into the market. And the squeeze play is on right now. So if you had that 4% mortgage and now they're in the 5s, it's a little easier to go out there and put your home in the market and sell it and buy a different one, because instead of 4% compared to 7 or 7.5%, 4 compared to 5, 5.5, it's not so bad. You're going to trade a percent of interest to be in the home that you would like to be right now and today. That's either the right size being bigger or smaller because you upsized or downsized and got married or got divorced or blended a family or something like that. All those reasons that people want to make the move. Most got delayed last year. And it wasn't just because of interest rates. So much uncertainty with elections, the economy, and all of these things happening with Congress and these government shutdowns. I think a lot of it goes away in the second year of the presidency. And you don't have to like him or not like him. What you have to know is in the second year, a lot of policy stuff gets done. I also think that the word is that people get bigger tax refunds this year. That will help people as well. There's a lot that's happened, and again, keeping the politics out of it, that suggests to me that the market is actually going to turn it up a notch in 2026. So if you're selling your property, I think you get the same amount of money you got last year, maybe a little bit more. Most people going on the market right now will not price it overly optimistically and put it $50,000 above the list price, maybe 5% above where the selling price might be. And I think that will get a better result. So what we're seeing is this mirage of, wow, prices are really coming down. And the asking price is absolutely, but the sales price, it hasn't really come down as much as people would think. And certainly in some pocket areas, it may have come down a little bit more. But overall, if you look nationwide, home values are up 3-4%. So we're still gaining on that. The other thing I would say right now is if you are waiting for prices to come down, a lot of you waited 3, 4, 5 years for that, and it didn't work out. The prices actually went up. So even when the interest rates come down just a little bit, chances are if you were on the sideline the last few years, you're actually going to pay quite a bit more. That strategy didn't work for those that sat on the sideline waiting for it to come down. And if you look at the stock market, you look at real estate, they tend to increase over time. There are some peaks and valleys, but right now we're heading on an upward trend, in my opinion. So look for 3 to 4% increase next year, more listings hitting on the market, but also those consumers buying up some of the inventory that is currently out there right now. Rates 5.5, 5.75 by the end of the year is what I'm seeing right now. I expect a really good year for real estate, a lot of deals in new construction, and a growing trend of people renting out their homes and buying the next one. Part of a wealth building strategy, but also because maybe they're not getting the result that they want in the sales price right now, so they'll be a landlord for a year or two. That's the market snapshot I have for you. And when we look back in 12 months right now, you can let me know if I was right or if I was wrong. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate.